Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Happy Pill Podcast. I'm creating a new series called The Conversations. This is an important time to be talking about the Black Lives Matter movement, and I, for one, am very excited about the guests coming onto the show for this series. There is so much that I need to learn, and I want to open up this platform for all of us who are interested in helping to make lifelong, positive, and sustainable changes with our beautiful sisters and brothers of color and create a world of true equality. These conversations are recorded using Zoom, so you will notice an audio change if you are listening to the podcast version. There is also a video complement that you can find on my website or on my YouTube channel called The Happy Pill Podcast. If you are compelled, please share these conversations with your loved ones. Have these conversations with your loved ones. I hope you enjoy the guests and the information and stories that they are bravely sharing with all of us. Thank you for tuning in. Okay, let's get right back into it. So let's continue on with your story, our conversation, and we have a mutual friend together. Does that even sound right? Oh, that sounds right. We have a mutual friend. And she was talking about finding her Blackness and her womanness through her art.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to know, have you had this experience as well? And, can you describe it? For her, I think they came at separate times,
Yeah.
but did you have this kind of experience?
Yeah, I've had this, it was weaved in since my parents, which big credit to them because they exposed me to the arts at such a young age. It's embedded in my culture. Like my background is from the Caribbean. My dad is from St. Kitts and Nevis. My mom is from Antigua and Barbuda, and both of them moved to England within the same year when they were 13. So my background, as I know it, is from the Caribbean, and then I have the weaving of England, and then when they moved to Canada, right, and now I have the Canadian within my cultural background, and there's some Dutch in there as well. My great aunt researched that in the family, so we have this weaving. So steeped within the Caribbean, the West Indian background, music, dancing, community, and within the Caribbean culture, you have the weavings of French, Spanish, East Indian. You have the indigenous people of the Caribbean. You have Chinese, the English, and you have African. I feel like I'm missing one, but I think that's about it, right? So you have these weavings in the Caribbean culture, right? So in all of those cultures, music and dance and the arts are big in community, are a big part of life, right? So we have that is my blood foundation, right? That is my blood blueprint, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, and now we weave in like the Canadian experience, right? So as a kid, like my parents took myself and my sister to festivals and to the theater, and so that was part of growing up. At home when you have gatherings, or not even gatherings, the music would be on, it'd be loud, it'd be playing, it'd be joyful, it would feel good, right? So the arts has always been a part of my upbringing, and even into and all the way through adulthood. And so that, like, as we say, the Black experience, that has been my experience, that is weaved into my life. My first visceral memory and exposure to it, aside from going to festivals and carnival and things like that, where I really connected with it is when I watched a PBS special called Black Dance in America. My parents had taped it on VHS. And I'm
Oh,
saying that
VH.
now like VHS. You know,
Yeah.
the TV was the frame was the oak, you know, that solid mahogany
Yes.
wood frame, the Zenith TV, and it was a good TV, you know, then.
You had to
And
go up and change the channels manually. Yeah.
exactly. Well, this one had a remote. We were fancy, you know.
What?
we got a good one with the remote and, you know, the VHS. And so my parents had taped the show, and I watched it the next day, and I saw, little did I know who I was watching at the time, but I was watching legends in the Black dance community, especially in the United States. So it was my first exposure to Garth Fagan dance, to Chuck Davis, Elio Pomare, Catherine Dunham, Alvin Ailey, American Dance Theater, right? Break dancing, tap, like finding out the roots of tap, and Harlem, the roots of jazz, that Renaissance period, and seeing contemporary dance. You know, some of it I really enjoyed, and others I didn't have a good understanding, because, you know, at that time, you know, contemporary dance it was kind of way out there for a kid. But you know, you see breakdance and all that popular stuff that was going on then. I was like, yeah, I can dig it, you know. Jump rope, like double dutch, you know. So just to see all of that, my mind was blown, and I watched that tape like hundreds of times. That was
Almost
my
wore it out.
pardon?
Almost wore it out, right?
Oh no, I still have it. My mom said, "You watch this thing more than I can count. You need to have it." And when I said I watched it the other day, they're like, "You're not sick of watching that?" I'm like, "No." I'm sure you can YouTube it now, but you know, but it was that exposure of seeing the shapes and the bodies of and hearing the drums, and hearing the masters talk about dance and art, and the inspiration. I was in. So from that experience, from that exposure, I was always wanting to know more about Black dance, about dance in general, and seeing like the dancing in the music videos, and the movies, and the television specials. Anytime there was dance, I was just like, let me see. You know, I couldn't care less about the camera being panned to the audience. I'll be like, let me see the dance, you know. But it just brought it introduced storytelling. It introduced bringing the human experience in an art form. It introduced the powerful medium of how the arts can really speak and connect. And when I decided to say, I'm going to be a professional dancer, and move to Toronto, on quite just like, I was very much in that ambition as like, how do I get to be a professional dancer? So I moved to Toronto with no planning, no nothing. It was just like, there's an opportunity, I'm going. And what was motivating me, not so much as that, what motivated me was to dance in the theater, to dance in the different platforms across the board. But I was very much interested in finding a Black company to dance with, because of my memories and visioning of Alvin Ailey, American Dance Theater, of seeing Garth Fagan. And this was at the time where the Lion King um, musical
Mm.
shortly after was starting to be created, and I wanted in, like I wanted to be in that space where of what I saw, excuse me, as a kid, and to be able to use to create stories with my body, with other um, and with other bodies, Black bodies as well, and to be in the midst of telling stories, some that I could relate to, and others that I would discover as well. Um, so I, and I did that. And as I moved forward, I really understood the deep connection about telling the stories through art that really helped to connect us through spoken word, through dance, through video, different realms of media. So that absolutely influenced me a lot. I would especially look at the different experiences of everybody, and I've been fortunate to learn from the First Nations community. I've been fortunate to learn from the Indian community, from the Chinese community, from the Latin community. We all have links. We all have these similar thread and weaving a common thread. And then from that common thread, we have all these other experiences
Right, right.
that come from the common thread, So when we go back, when we look at like even human civilizations of where we come from, if we understand that we come from the same thread, it's just that we've all branched. And that's why you see so many different shades and languages and traditions and cultures and food and from wherever we are geographically. And you see people's family trees, they're going from light to dark. How the hell can you be discriminatory when it's in your blood?
Mm-hmm. When you're saying light to dark, are you meaning white to black? Is that
Yeah,
what you're referring to? Okay.
yeah. Like if I look at my own family, right? Um, there is my family spans all shades, my own personal family,
Mm-hmm.
right? So why there's no that I can't the, to discriminate would be to discriminate against my family,
Mm.
you know? So art has a beautiful way of bringing the experience in a, a visceral and tangible way to draw you in and to give you the lens of an experience of what people live through or what they go through. And that's one of the things that definitely has influenced me in my artistry as when dancing professionally, when creating, speaking, and also taking in the human experience, you know?
Mm-hmm. Did you ever have any difficulties in your artistic career because of the color of your skin?
Mm, not so much in your face.
Mm.
I think it was passive, sometimes through language about maybe somebody would over instate their experience, say, oh, well, I have 20 years of experience doing X, Y, and Z. Or if let's say I'm leading an experience and the people don't know who's coming in and I show up and it's like, it's just you? Yeah, it's just me, you know? So though there have been, the experiences have been passive. They have not been so much in your face, name calling or actions. Some of them have been very subtle. And the way I combat it is that I really don't take on anybody's crap.
Good girl.
um, but I just show up as best as I can in my ability to do the work. And 10 out of 10, whatever the person thought, I will have shifted that perspective. It's like, oh, you did great. Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you. Or I never saw, or in conversation, I never thought of it that way. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I bring, and I mean, that's to credit to how I was brought up, because there's an understanding of, yes, I know the past, I know the narrative, I know the experiences, but I don't take that anger and I don't take that with me. That's not to say that I don't get affected by certain things that happen in the world. It's just that I'm always looking at, how do I move forward? How am I being the example? How am I contributing? Am I contributing anger? Am I contributing solution? Right? Am I contributing to, well, you people have always been like this, so I'm not even talking to you. I'm going this way, and just, kind of secluding. No, I'm not going to do that. I choose to move in a way that is part of the solution,
Love
is
it.
part of the progress, is part of the evolution. And if that is part of the systematic breakdown of, things that are in place, or that are getting disrupted, well then, I've been on that train since, woo, woo, since,
Toot your own
all,
horn, girl. Toot your
yeah. And I continue to do that,
Yeah, because that shapes your art now, right? Anything that you're
Yeah,
creating. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
We are gonna do a separate episode about your goddess moves and stuff like that. So this is
Mm,
probably something that you can talk about more of,
mm-hmm,
right? Oh, excited for that. Excited for that.
mm-hmm,
So one of the things that you are an advocate for are women's bodies,
mm-hmm,
right? Can you start to talk about this?
mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I believe in the ownership of our bodies, and it's multi-layered, but really speaking up for the treatment of our bodies, also being active participant in the health of our bodies. What I mean by active participant means that there's an active and a balanced dialogue between the people that we allow in our healthcare tribe, right? So doctors, holistic practitioners, whoever, that there's an active dialogue, right? And that there is a evolved relationship with the body. The mindset, and also the fullness of how we own ourselves. right? And it goes deep within the space of the womb. It goes deep within, how we show up in the world. It goes deep within how we express ourselves. It goes deep within deconstructing um, the oppression that has been put on women to oppress like our innate power, right? Men and women, we are powerful human beings, right?
Mm-hmm.
But women have been suppressed through history for things that are innately ours. And the language or the representation and the narrative of certain things in a woman has been skewed for us to disconnect when really we need to reconnect.
Right.
For example, our menstrual cycles, right? Thank goodness there is an opening, there's more of an opening of this right now, but our menstrual cycles, when I talk to my great aunt and I hear about their experience, they had like a cloth, kind of like layers of cloth that they wore, and you had to wash that every day, clean, 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 and it was white. You had to wash it every day, have it clean, and then how kids are sometimes when they don't understand. The boys, if they see red on the dress or whatever, you sit down, you'd be teased, and it was very shameful. But you had to get on with life. There was no, you're gonna rest for 3 days, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That wasn't happening. Um, you had to get on with life. So there was a disconnect. Because of just the society at large, right? Um, and then also being able to talk about it freely, publicly. Like even now, like we see commercials with tampons and, maxi pads as just like, a certain freedom about having the right maxi pad or tampon, something to collect it and throw it in the garbage. And it's like, yes, I have this now. I can now move on. I can live my life freely.
Right.
As opposed to, we are designed to slow down. That's why there is such a increase in PMS, PCOS, uterine fibroids, cysts, endometriosis. Part of the reason of the rise of those debilitating imbalances is the disconnection within our menstrual cycles or moon cycles,
Mm-hmm.
right? And even the language in calling it the curse or
The rag.
period, the rag, or all
Yeah.
those things, right?
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it's part of it. I'm not saying it's all of it because there's lots of other factors that go along with those imbalances. But just even getting into a space of honoring the cycle. I grew up hating my cycle because from the time I had my period, my moon cycle, I had debilitating pain.
Mm.
And I put in everything under the map, like primrose oil, Tylenol, Advil, a hot water thing, chamomile tea, anything I could take to get rid of the pain. I hated my menstrual cycle growing up. And again, it's no fault to my parents or anybody else. It was just in the society at large, it is something to be hidden. It is something to put whatever you need to put up your vagina walls and get on with life. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So whether we're bleeding or not bleeding, this is something that the paradigm of just viewing that sacred time in our bodies is starting, it needs to be evolved into, we can talk freely about it, right? And talk freely about some of the processes, excuse me, that we can do during that time, and falling into that beautiful rhythm of a woman's body. So that's just one thing, you know. I mean, how I really came into this is when I had my fibroid journey, with discovering I had fibroids, and I was in the process of like figuring out what this was. And the experience that I had with that brought me to the knowledge that I have now.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Which is doing the work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There was a disconnection. The disconnection was prevalent because I had somebody else tell me, you need to pay attention to this. I was getting a massage, a lymphatic drainage massage, where the practitioner went over my body and especially was paying attention to all the connected parts of the lymphatic system. And he went over my belly and he's like, what is this? Now, if we're truly connected with our bodies, you know, we touch, we feel, we are going to feel things, and then we're going to react and figure and be like, okay, something's wrong here. I need to check it out. Right. I had somebody else go over my body and say, you need to look at this. Right. Something's not right. He's like, what is this? And I was like, what do you mean? Right. And that's when I went to the doctor. And then that's when I got, when they told me what it was. And then why this is the advocacy piece comes in is because the first time I went to a gynecologist, I was very excited. I was like, yay, okay, we're gonna figure this out, and I'm gonna get help, you know. I was very much dependent on what the gynecologist was gonna say, you know, without me having some knowledge or whatnot. It was just like, okay, what are you gonna say? You're gonna help me, you're gonna fix me, right? And what ended up happening is that I was age shamed, I was gender shamed, I was culture shamed.
I need to stop for just 1 sec. The first one you said, I don't know if I misunderstood that. Can you say what the first shamed was?
Well, I don't know now.
Unless you said shamed, like first
No,
you were
I was age shamed.
age.
Like age.
That's it. Okay,
Yeah.
age shamed.
Because
Sorry.
I was being asked questions of when was I, how old am I? Do I have a boyfriend? Do I want children? When do I want to have children? You should really think about this. Yes, these are relevant questions, but they were so much in a tone of, well, what are you doing right now? You need to get on this if you want X, Y, and Z. And I'm just like, I'm just figuring out my body right now, you know? And then the question comes of, if we could just get you pregnant, then we can figure out how to best deal with it. And then once you're pregnant, we can then just dissolve that, and then we can have a best course of action. And when that was presented to me, I'm like thinking, okay, you're a woman. Why would you ask me that?
Yeah.
Why would you be so insensitive to say, let's get you let's bring a life into this world and terminate it so we can figure out what's going on in your body? What is that? You know? And then there was the conversation of oh, this happens in Black women commonly, so you have nothing to worry about. And then I would ask why, and there wasn't an answer to that. There was nothing towards that. It was just like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? You know, like in a sense of like, if you don't know, you don't know. But it was just dismissive.
Right.
You know, and so once I was given the options of invasive surgery or a drug that may or may not work, completely disrupt my hormonal system, that may or may not work.
Right.
Choose. So by the end of that experience, I felt really low. I felt unseen. I felt devalued. And I felt powerless. And so I put on my clothes, I went out, I was walking slower after the appointment. They said, you know, they gave me some stuff to do to follow up with them. And then I just walked out, and I just remember tears coming down my face. And I was like, did that just happen? You know, did that experience just happen? And I went home, and I was just like, I didn't listen to my music or anything. I'm just sitting there, and I'm just like, I'm crying. And I was like, is this it? Is this how I deal? Is this how it's done? Is this how I deal with this? And then I started to get agitated, and that agitation started to get into anger. And I was just like, how dare you? How dare you treat me like that when all I was there for was to get hope, answers. And then I realized I put all of my power into this person, where I needed to put myself in the driver's seat. I was letting somebody else, I was gladly at the time willing for somebody else to be in the driver's seat and be like, okay, yep, all right, awesome, and okay, and I'll do it. Instead of giving myself the knowledge to be a active participant in what was going on in my body. Soon after that, I started hearing from other people saying, oh, they had fibroids. Oh, they just got diagnosed. Oh, what are you doing? What's happening? As I was going through my journey. And a lot of it was from people of color. And I was like, what? Why am I all of a sudden hearing from all these people, you know, like, you know, friends, family, and all of this, or just like people out in the world. And I was like, there's something here. But, you know, I was still steeped in my healing. So I didn't really have an answer, but I knew that there was something more. So I changed my gynecologist. I went and I changed my doctor. Until I found somebody that was willing to listen and hear me and see me, that I felt comfortable with. And then that started the deep dive into like your belly is actually, like the uterus is actually the womb, like even using that terminology. And learning about those, the very, if you look at the womb and how it's interweaved with our body, it's very complex physically, right? Because at first I was looking at the physical, like, all right, what do I need to eat? What practices do I need to do? I was looking at the physical body, the hormones and everything first. Then it got into the emotional, the spiritual, the feminine mysteries. Um, and all of it would just make me go, just blew like, to no fault of anybody growing up, because this information is not widely talked about.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't widely talked about then. It's starting to be talked about more now. So everybody, however they grew up, adapted to the environment and what was going on in society, right? We talk a lot of now about self-care and wellness and practices and all of these things. If we look back, our grandparents, our great grandparents, ancestors, there was none of that,
Yeah.
because they were in survival.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
Total
were just
survival.
trying to live, you know. So, and there was high stress. So this, what is innately has already been there for like generations, is now rising in knowledge. And so the advocacy comes into knowing practices that you can do for yourself, knowing the body, knowing the language of the body, understanding how to communicate with it, understanding, giving it preventative. It's like when you're, you want to prevent certain things in the body. You got to exercise, you got to eat right, and whatever, blah, blah, blah. This is the same thing, right? How do you have a moon cycle that only lasts 3 days the way it's supposed to be, right? How do you honor that gentle flow? What are you putting into your body that so it allows it to just flow and relax and be, instead of adding other stuff to it that will compromise it? How are we living our lives? How do we own our confidence and creativity and our sacred sensuality? How do we own all of these things? How do we own, like, how do we treat our bodies? How are we out there in life when we create with how we interact and how we have people treat us, right? All of these things are connected to the womb of our bodies. And the womb is the first thing that gets affected by emotions,
Trauma.
trauma, where energy can get stuck or where energy starts to flow, antibiotics. So when I learned about this stuff, and even more, I'm still learning. I had a big aha yesterday, you know. It's like, it's all the advocacy about being able to fully give ourselves the tool to take care of ourselves is very much a part of activism, right? Not so much like political. It can be, because if you look at what's going on with women, the right to have an abortion or the right to do things that you shouldn't have to ask other people to say, can I do this to my body? It's your choice. But when those rights are taken away from you, then yeah, it gets political. But it is a form of activism to be fully empowered about your body, right? Which other people have, and you can look at history, have tried to suppress,
Right.
mentally and physically, and the environment.
And emotionally, spiritually, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Wow. So we're coming up to another marker here, time-wise, and we still have a few more questions to ask. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
We can,
Yeah.
I think,
No problem.
yeah, I'm looking at the questions that we still have. Let's then do another part so that people can take all this information in
Mhm.
pieces instead of loading it all into one.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, because all of this information is so profound and powerful, so we want to let people absorb it when they can.
Mhm.
We're going to talk a little bit more in the third part about the terms and vocabulary for people to use and to be aware of, and how we can support during this time
Mhm.
with Black Lives Matter movement. So
Mhm.
we're going to end this session here.
Mhm.
We'll come back for part 3.
Mhm.
Sound good?
Perfect.
Okay. All right, friends. So once again, stay tuned. There's an excellent, awesome part 3 coming up. And talk to you soon. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you or someone you know is in immediate need of help, please contact your local authorities, distress center, or professional care provider. If you'd like more information on this episode or other topics, go to my website, ursulayourdone.com.